Well, it's happening again. Ubisoft plans to lay off up to 380 people, according to this Rock Paper Shotgun article. And at this point, is anyone even surprised? Let's take a deeper look. Ubisoft are reportedly continuing the ruthless cuts they've been instituting in various stages since the start of this year, with the latest round seeing the publishers' Winnipeg and Belgrade studios close down. At the same time, Ubisoft Barcelona is being restructured to focus solely on Rainbow Six games. As a result of all this, up to 380 staff are reportedly at risk of losing their jobs. They join the likes of longtime Clancy studio Red Storm Entertainment, which saw around 100 staff laid off as it ceased to be a game development studio back in March, as sections of Ubisoft hit hard by the publisher's desire to slash costs. All of this follows a decision by Ubi management to reorganize the company into a set of creative houses looking after their specific game series, with the formation of the one which houses Assassin's Creed, Rainbow Six, and Far Cry having seen Tencent hand Ubisoft a bunch of cash. And then we're going to look at a small snippet from an article written by Tom Phillips over at IGN. He writes, in March, Ubisoft confirmed that 105 staff were set to depart veteran Tom Clancy Game Studios' Red Storm Entertainment as a part of a move that downsized the studio permanently, following 3 previous waves of layoffs at that company since 2022. We are seeing massive layoffs from all over the sector. It's not just these international studios that publishers are shutting down. We're seeing it right here with Bungie and the entire We Want Destiny 3 debacle. I have a video on that if you'd like to hear more about that situation. Ubisoft has been making layoffs more and more common over the past 5 years. In January, it announced it was embarking on a final round of cost-cutting that would deliver an approximate $230 million in savings for the company. These studios aren't old. Belgrade location was opened in 2016, and it was a support studio that most recently worked on Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced and Assassin's Creed Shadows. And the Winnipeg location opened in 2019 that went on to produce such titles as Rainbow Six Mobile, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and Far Cry 6. These studios being shut down doesn't come as a surprise whenever you look back at an article written on January 21st, 2026. Coming from IGN, it says when the Ubisoft Stockholm and Ubisoft Halifax studios were closed, Ubisoft has announced a sweeping company restructure that will result in the cancellation of 6 games, including its Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake, and a delay to a further 7 titles. 2 Ubisoft studios will be closed completely as a result of the changes, while others are subject to further layoffs. Of the half-dozen games that have been fully scrapped, Ubisoft is only publicly naming one today, its long-awaited Sands of Time remake that was rebooted once already. 3 of the cancelled games were new IPs, while 1 was a mobile game. Ubisoft's core focus going forward, the company has said, will be on open-world games and live services. With how these layoffs are being sprung on employees, it seems that the smaller satellite support studios are becoming unnecessary, being shut down and migrating most of that support work back to the main studios. The gaming industry is shrinking, no doubt. In 2025, Ubisoft reportedly eliminated 1,500 positions from the company. There is a big shakeup coming, and I am not sure what the future looks like for some of these major companies. Ubisoft's fiscal year earnings reports aren't looking too great either, with the company reporting a net booking of $2.1 billion from 2024 to 2025, with the following year ever reporting $1.76 billion in net bookings. That's not nothing. A 17% drop in bookings should make everyone in the industry on edge. And these are the types of things that higher-ups in companies see that make decisions that will ultimately affect the entire player base. I don't want it to seem that I am skeptical for the future of gaming, but with these repeated studio closures and mass layoffs all around the industry, it doesn't instill a ton of faith in these legacy publishers anymore. If we take Microsoft and Xbox as an example, we see new CEO Asha Sharma call for an Xbox reset. We can take a look at this article from GamesIndustry.biz that says, Xbox is reportedly considering major layoffs, telling staff, we need to reassess our investment priorities for the next 5 years. We've become too reliant on vendors to operate our systems and must become more self-reliant as an engineering culture to build for the future. Bloomberg reports that the new CEO Asha Sharma is considering the cuts as the company fights to stem declining revenue. Bloomberg sources suggest the cuts will likely come as Microsoft ties up its fiscal year at the end of this month. This news comes as Asha Sharma marks her first 100 days as CEO, telling staff and players that it is important to have both optimism and realism as we work to reset the business. And what does this mean for Xbox and Microsoft? I guess only time will tell. But if I had to guess, it means that more layoffs are coming in the next few years with subsequent satellite studio shutdowns. The scale of these layoffs aren't clear yet, but this makes every employee at Xbox wonder if they will have a job in the upcoming months. I don't think that we will be surprised by any decision made by the higher-ups at these companies anymore. The mass layoffs are becoming more frequent and are generating an unsettling feeling among the developers, but also the player base as well. Developers don't know if they will have a job in 6 months, and the players don't know if their live service game that they paid for will be shut down or not. Microsoft's latest quarterly filing highlights the ongoing challenges. Gaming revenue declined 7% to $5.3 billion in the quarter that ended on March 31st, driven by a 33% drop in Xbox hardware revenue amid weaker console sales and a 5% decline in Xbox's content revenue. PlayStation is in the same boat, reporting a 46% decline in hardware sales year over year. With all that being said, Xbox, Ubisoft, and PlayStation are set to release some of their biggest titles later this year in 2026 and early 2027, with Gears of War E-Day, Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced, and God of War Laufey. But what comes next for these major studios and developers after these large releases? How much of the future hinges on the success of these studio-defining titles? It feels like a larger than expected shift is coming to the games industry, and I'm not sure if studios, developers, or the audience are prepared for such a shocking change. And what has caused most of this turmoil? We've seen multiple companies spend high dollar amounts, sometimes to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars, only to shut down their live service features or close the studio completely. And these problems come from a variety of developers. This isn't a trend that can continue, but why aren't people playing these games? We can name the classics: Highguard, Concord, Avowed, and you can listen to all the arguments about how this game is woke or DEI implementation. But that doesn't change the fact that the people who support those ideologies weren't playing the game either. No one was. And I absolutely acknowledge that some games are just woke DEI crap. It has been very obvious for a long time for anyone who is paying attention. The integration of real-world politics and ideologies into a fantasy story will only break immersion and let the player base know that while these types of games try to hide under the veil of inclusivity, they are actually excluding a large number of the player base and in turn losing money, causing turmoil in all the previously mentioned companies. And possibly that is what the CEO of Xbox was referring to when she said, "It is important to have both optimism and realism as we work to reset the business." When a higher up at a major studio uses language like that, it always makes me fearful for the upcoming announcements. We are right in the middle of 2026, and not much has changed over the past year to instill faith into the broader gaming community. Destiny 2, one of the largest live service games, announced its final update that came on June the 9th. And then what happened? Over 1 million people logged into Destiny on that day. An estimated 21,000 new players logged onto Destiny for the first time. The number of new Destiny 2 players just on that day alone tops some games' total daily player count. Gamers aren't going away. They're still hungry, even with the older titles. They will show up if you give them what they want. But it seems like developers and studios are moving away from the core audience that brought them to where they are at now. And as a gamer, it is very confusing to see these companies with a clear path to success completely abandon what made them great and risk those die-hard fans moving on to a new game or even a new platform. It seems that we are in uncharted territory, but I am hopeful for the future. I have faith that some of these larger titles like Gears of War E-Day and Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced will do well. But as of right now, I can almost guarantee that God of War Laufey will not beat projections. The millennial, "I talk like a 30-year-old from California, but I'm in a God of War game" writing will, like I said, only break immersion and push players away. So I guess 2 out of 3 ain't bad. But I don't know. These are just my thoughts on the current situation. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments. Do you believe we will see a continuation of this layoff trend? Do you think the premier titles from these AAA studios will do well? Do you think the restructuring of these studios will pan out well? Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you enjoyed and would like to support, drop a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you've watched this far, thank you very much for your patience. As I've said in a previous video, I'm still new to putting my thoughts into video format, so I do appreciate the patience of those who are watching. I'll see you soon.